The transport ship moved slowly through space toward the massive space station. Inside the ship, a man in a black suit sat quietly in his seat. His name was Kang Minho. He looked like any other human businessman. His hair was neat, his suit was clean, and he carried only a simple leather briefcase. Minho watched through the window as they got closer to Nexus Prime. The space station was huge. It was bigger than any city on Earth. Millions of lights covered its surface. Ships of all shapes and sizes moved around it like insects around a bright light. "First time seeing the council station?" asked the pilot from the front of the ship. "Yes," Minho said. His voice was calm and quiet. "It's something, isn't it? Been the center of galactic government for over 1,000 years. Every important species in the galaxy has people there." Minho nodded, but said nothing more. He was thinking about his mission. 3 years ago, humans had asked to join the Galactic Council. 3 years of waiting. 3 years of being ignored. 3 years of watching other species get what they wanted while humans got nothing. The ship landed in a busy dock. Aliens of all types walked around loading and unloading cargo. Most looked like nothing Minho had ever seen. Some had scales, some had fur, some looked like giant insects. A few looked almost human, but not quite. As Minho walked off the ship, he noticed how the aliens looked at him. Some stared with curiosity. Others barely looked at all. Many seemed to think he was not important. Just another human from a small, weak planet. The dock was loud and busy. Strange languages filled the air. Machines beeped and hummed. Workers shouted orders. But Minho moved through it all calmly. His eyes took in everything around him, though he tried not to make it obvious. He noticed the security cameras in every corner. He saw the guards at each exit. He counted the number of steps between safe spots to hide. Old habits from his other life. The life he was trying to leave behind for this diplomatic mission. "Mr. Kang." Minho turned and saw a woman walking toward him. She was human, about 40 years old with short brown hair and tired eyes. She wore a blue dress suit and looked stressed. "Ambassador Yu," Minho said with a small bow. "Thank you for meeting me." Yu Nari had been Earth's representative to the Galactic Council for 3 years. She had worked hard to get humans accepted, but every meeting ended the same way. The council would listen politely, then say no. "How was the trip?" Nari asked, as they walked through the station. "Long but quiet. Any changes since your last report?" Nari's face grew dark. "Worse, if anything. The VAC delegation has been pushing for new trade restrictions on human space. They want to charge us fees just to move our own ships through space near their territory." They walked through long hallways made of some kind of crystal. The walls glowed with soft light. Everything was designed to impress visitors, to show them how powerful and advanced the council was. "The Thek have been worse," Nari continued. "Their new security chief, Grak, thinks humans are barely better than animals. He's been pushing for what he calls species classification review. He wants to have humans listed as a pre-civilized species." "What would that mean?" Minho asked. "No rights. No protection under galactic law. Any council member could take human territory or humans themselves as property." Minho stopped walking. For just a moment, something cold flashed in his eyes. Then it was gone, and he looked like a simple diplomat again. "I see. And the council leadership? What's their position?" "High Chancellor Vec says he's neutral, but he's never voted in our favor. The truth is, most of the council sees us as newcomers who haven't earned a place at the table. They think our technology is primitive. They think our military is a joke." They entered an elevator that moved them up through the center of the station. Through the glass walls, Minho could see level after level of offices, meeting rooms, and living spaces. Thousands of different species worked and lived here. What about our allies? Surely some species support human membership. Nari laughed, but there was no humor in it. Allies? The gentle folk of Andromeda said they would consider supporting us, in exchange for exclusive rights to mine 3 of our colony worlds. The Peaceful Trade Union offered to back our application if we agreed to let them build factories on Earth itself, using human workers at quarter wages. Those aren't allies. Those are people trying to buy us cheap. Exactly. And those were the good offers. Most species just ignore us completely. The elevator stopped, and they walked out into another hallway. This one was fancier than the others. The walls showed moving pictures of different planets and species. The floor was made of smooth stone that seemed to glow from within. This is the diplomatic level, Nari explained. Each major species has offices here. Ours is, well, you'll see. They walked past impressive offices with large doors and fancy signs. The Vak Hegemony office looked like a palace entrance. The Thek Swarm office was made of dark metal with sharp edges. The Crystal Empire office seemed to be made of living light. Finally, they stopped at a small door at the end of the hallway. The sign simply said, Human Republic in basic letters. The door was plain metal painted white. Not very impressive, is it? Nari said as she opened the door. Inside was a simple office with 2 desks, a few chairs, and a window that looked out. At space, it was clean but basic, nothing like the grand offices they had passed. It's functional, Minho said. Sometimes that's better than impressive. Nari sat behind her desk and pulled out a thick file. I need to brief you on tomorrow's session. The council has agreed to hear our formal application for full membership, but I have to warn you, it's probably just for show. They'll listen, ask a few questions, then vote no, just like always. What exactly do they object to? Everything. They say our technology isn't advanced enough. They say we're too aggressive as a species. They point to our history of wars on Earth. They claim we can't be trusted to follow council law. Minho sat down across from her. And what do you think? Are they right? Nari looked at him carefully. She had read his file, of course. She knew he wasn't really just a diplomat. The government had sent him for a reason. I think they're scared, she said finally. Humans have gone from first contact to interstellar colonies in less than a century. Most species took thousands of years to do the same thing. We learn fast, we adapt fast, and we don't give up easy. That makes some of them nervous. Fear can make people do stupid things, Minho said quietly. Yes, it can. Which is why I need you to be very careful tomorrow. Some of the council members would love an excuse to declare humans a threat. If they can claim we're aggressive or dangerous, they can justify taking action against human space. Minho nodded. I understand. This is our last chance to do things. Peacefully. Exactly. If this doesn't work. Nari didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Minho stood up and straightened his tie. Then we'd better make sure it works. Is there anything else I should know about the key players? High Chancellor Vex is smart, but arrogant. He thinks the Vak are naturally superior to other species. Security Chief Grak is dangerous. He's not just prejudiced against humans. He genuinely believes we're animals that learn to use tools. Both of them have a lot of influence with the other council members. What about potential supporters? The Neutral Systems Alliance might vote with us if they think it benefits them. The Free Traders Guild likes doing business with humans, but even they won't risk angering the major powers. Minho walked to the window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth. Somewhere out there were human colonies working hard to build new lives. Somewhere out there was a fleet, ready to act if diplomacy failed. Ambassador, he said without turning around. Tomorrow I want you to let me do most of the talking. Are you sure? These beings can be very intimidating. The Great Assembly Hall holds over 1,000 delegates from hundreds of different species. The pressure can be overwhelming. Minho turned back to her with a small smile. I've been in worse situations. Nari looked at him again, really looked at him. He seemed so calm, so normal. But there was something in his eyes. Something that suggested he was much more than he appeared to be. Get some rest, she said. Tomorrow changes everything, one way or another. After Minho left for his quarters, Nari sat alone in her office. She pulled up his real file on her secure computer, the classified one that most people would never see. Page after page of military service. Battles won. Enemies defeated. A record of violence that made her shiver. But also a record of protection. Every fight had been to defend human lives. Every victory had saved innocent people. He was a weapon, yes, But he was their weapon. She closed the file and looked out at the stars. Tomorrow, the Galactic Council would meet a human diplomat. They would see a man in a simple suit carrying a briefcase. They had no idea what was really walking into their chamber. The fate of two civilizations would be decided by what happened next. The Great Assembly Hall was unlike anything most beings had ever seen. The massive dome stretched high above them, filled with floating platforms that held delegates from across the galaxy. Each platform was designed for different species. Some needed water to breathe. Others required high heat or cold temperatures. Some lived in pure energy fields. Kang Minho walked calmly beside Ambassador Nari toward the small human platform near the back of the hall. Around them, hundreds of different life forms talked in languages that sounded like music, grinding stone, or electronic beeps. The noise was overwhelming, but Minho seemed unaffected. Their platform was simple compared to the others. The VAC delegation sat on a golden platform that floated near the center of the hall. Their scales gleamed under bright lights. The Thek platform looked like a fortress made of black metal, with sharp points and dark corners where the insect-like beings could hide. "Impressive, isn't it?" Nari whispered as they took their seats. Minho looked around the hall with calm eyes. "It's designed to make visitors feel small and unimportant." "Does it work?" "On some people, maybe." A deep sound filled the hall, like a bell made of crystal. All conversation stopped. The floating platforms moved into a perfect circle around a central stage where High Chancellor Vex stood waiting. Vex was tall, even for a VAC. His scales were deep red with gold edges. His eyes were large and dark. When he spoke, his voice carried easily through the hall without any need for amplification. "The Galactic Council will come to order," Vex announced. "Today we address several matters of importance to the stability and prosperity of civilized space." Minho noticed how Vex said civilized space. The message was clear. Some species were civilized, others were not. First matter, the request by the species known as humans for full membership in the Galactic Council. A wave of sound moved through the hall. Some delegates made clicking noises. Others growled or beeped. Few of the sounds seemed friendly. The human delegation has submitted formal applications, trade proposals, and diplomatic requests over the past 3 standard years. Today, they will present their final argument for membership. High Chancellor Vex looked directly at the human platform. His expression was not hostile exactly, but it was the look someone might give to a pet that had learned a new trick. However, Vex continued, "The Council has also received several important proposals regarding human activity in galactic space. This was not part of what Nari had expected." She looked worried. "Security Chief Grak of the Thek Swarm has prepared a report on human military capabilities and territorial expansion." A platform near the front moved forward. On it stood a being that looked like a giant praying mantis made of black armor. Security Chief Grak was 3 meters tall, with 4 arms that ended in razor-sharp claws. His head moved in quick, jerky motions as he scanned the assembly. "Honored delegates," Grak said. His voice was like metal scraping against stone. "The species called humans present a unique challenge to galactic stability." Minho's face showed no expression, but his hands rested calmly on his briefcase. "In less than 100 years, humans have spread to over 50 star systems. They have established military bases, mining operations, and colonies without seeking proper authorization from this council. Their expansion rate is unprecedented and concerning." More sounds from the assembled delegates. This time they seemed more interested. "Furthermore," Grak continued, "human military doctrine is based on principles of total warfare and acceptable casualties that violate standard galactic conventions. They have developed weapons and tactics that prioritize efficiency over honor." Nari started to stand, but Minho put a gentle hand on her arm. He shook his head slightly. "Wait. The Thek Security Force has prepared a detailed analysis of human capabilities. While their individual ships are small and appear primitive, they operate in coordinated groups with unusual effectiveness. Their soldiers show disturbing willingness to accept personal risk for strategic advantage. Grak's forearms gestured as he spoke, his claws catching the light. Most concerning is their adaptability. Humans study their opponents carefully and modify their tactics accordingly. This suggests a dangerous level of intelligence combined with aggressive instincts. Now many delegates were making sounds of agreement. The idea that humans might be smart and dangerous was clearly troubling to them. Therefore, Grak concluded, the Thek swarm recommends that humans be classified as a pre-civilized species pending further evaluation. This would allow the Council to monitor and control their expansion while protecting established galactic order. The hall erupted in discussion. Pre-civilized classification would mean humans had no rights under galactic law. Any council member could claim human territory or take human property without permission. High Chancellor Vex let the discussion continue for several minutes before calling for order. The council recognizes the concerns raised by Security Chief Grak. We will now hear additional proposals before allowing the human delegation to respond. Another platform moved forward. This one held several beings that looked like living crystals. They spoke in harmonic tones that sounded almost like singing. The Crystal Empire supports the Thek proposal, they said in unison. However, we suggest additional restrictions. Human trade should be limited to essential goods only. Human ships should be required to carry council observers. Human colonies should pay protection fees to ensure their safety. More platforms came forward with similar proposals. The Trade Federation wanted exclusive rights to all human mining operations. The Banking Consortium wanted to control all human currency exchanges. The Peaceful Systems Alliance wanted humans to provide free labor for infrastructure projects. Each proposal was worse than the last. They weren't trying to work with humans as equals. They were trying to make humans into servants. Ambassador Nari was getting more upset with each proposal. Her face was red and her hands were shaking slightly, but Minho remained perfectly calm. He sat quietly, listening to every word, watching every delegate. Finally, High Chancellor Vex called for order again. The Council has heard several proposals regarding human status and activities. We will now allow the human delegation to respond. Before we proceed to formal voting, Vex looked at the human platform with what might have been amusement. Ambassador Nari, you may present your species' case for membership. Nari started to stand, but again, Minho touched her arm gently. This time, he stood instead. Honored High Chancellor, Minho said. His voice was quiet but carried clearly through the hall. With your permission, I would like to address the Council. Vex looked surprised. And you are? My name is Kang Minho. I represent the human government in these proceedings. A wave of sound moved through the hall. Many delegates seemed to find something funny about a human wanting to speak to them directly. Very well, Vex said. You may proceed, but be brief. The Council has many important matters to address today. Minho stood quietly for a moment, looking around the hall at all the different species. When he finally spoke, his voice was calm and respectful. Honored delegates, I want to thank the Council for this opportunity to speak. Humanity comes before you today not as conquerors or threats, but as neighbors seeking cooperation. Several delegates made mocking sounds. The Thek platform buzzed with hostile clicks. We have tried for 3 years to work with the Council through proper diplomatic channels. We have followed all protocols. We have respected all boundaries. We have sought only fair treatment and the chance to contribute to galactic civilization. Minho paused and looked directly at Security Chief Grak. We have shown restraint when raiders attacked our colonies. We have shown patience when our merchant ships were seized without cause. We have shown understanding when our people were treated as less than equals. His voice remained calm, but something in his tone made several military-minded delegates pay closer attention. But I want the Council to understand something important. Humanity's preference for peace should not be mistaken for inability to defend ourselves. Now the hall was quieter. Even the most arrogant delegates sensed something different in the human's tone. We have tried diplomacy first because we believe it is right. We have sought cooperation because we think all species benefit from working together. We have offered friendship because we hoped it would be welcomed. Minho looked around the hall again, making eye contact with as many delegates as he could. But if the Council believes that patience means weakness, If you think restraint means fear, if you assume that our desire for peace means we cannot fight. He paused. Then you are making a very serious mistake. The hall fell completely silent. Even the background hums and beeps of various life support systems seemed quieter. Hi, Chancellor Vex's expression had changed. The amusement was gone. Now he looked at Minho with something that might have been concern. Are you threatening this council? Vex asked. Minho's expression didn't change. Honored High Chancellor, I am simply informing the council that humanity has options. We would prefer to exercise the diplomatic option. But we will not allow our people to be enslaved or our territory to be stolen. Security Chief Grak suddenly stood on his platform, his four arms spread wide in an aggressive display. This creature dares to threaten the greatest powers in the galaxy. Grak's voice was like grinding metal. The Great Assembly Hall felt different when the session resumed. The floating platforms had moved closer together, creating a tighter circle around the central stage. More security forces were visible now, standing at attention near the exits and along the upper levels of the dome. Kang Minho noticed all of this as he and Ambassador Nari returned to their platform. He also noticed that several delegate platforms had repositioned themselves. The VAC and Thek platforms were now directly across from the human position. Other platforms had moved to create clear sight lines to the humans. This doesn't look good, Nari whispered as they took their seats. Minho adjusted his tie and placed his briefcase beside his chair. No, it doesn't. High Chancellor Vex stood on the central platform looking more serious than before. The casual arrogance from earlier was gone, replaced by something harder. The Galactic Council has reached its decision regarding the human applications and proposals, Vex announced. The vote was unanimous. Minho felt Nari tense beside him, but he remained calm. The Council hereby rejects all human requests for membership, trade agreements, and territorial recognition. Furthermore, the Council accepts the Thek Security Force recommendation for pre-civilized species classification. Sounds of approval came from most of the platforms. A few delegates remained silent, but none spoke against the decision. However, Vex continued, given the aggressive statements made by the human representative, the Council has additional concerns about human activities in galactic space. Now Minho could see where this was going. His eyes quickly scanned the hall, noting the positions of all security forces and the location of every exit. The human representative's threats against this council constitute a violation of diplomatic protocols and galactic law. Such behavior cannot be tolerated from any species, regardless of their developmental status. Security Chief Grak rose from his platform. Even at a distance, his massive form was intimidating. His four arms were spread wide, and his compound eyes reflected the hall's lights like black mirrors. Honored delegates, Grak said, his voice echoing through the dome. The humans' words prove everything I said about their dangerous nature. They come here pretending to seek peace, but when they don't get what they want, they make threats. More sounds of agreement from the assembled delegates. This is exactly the kind of behavior we must not allow. If we let one primitive species threaten the council, others will think they can do the same. Minho stood slowly. Honored High Chancellor, I invoke diplomatic immunity. My words were not threats, but simple statements of fact. Vex's expression grew cold. Diplomatic immunity requires recognition of diplomatic status. Pre-civilized species do not have diplomatic status. The legal trap was now obvious. By classifying humans as pre-civilized, the Council could ignore all previous diplomatic agreements and protections. Furthermore, Grak added, threatening the Council is a security matter, not a diplomatic one. Security matters fall under my authority. 20. Thek warriors suddenly appeared around the human platform. Each stood 3 meters tall, their black carapaces gleaming under the hall's lights. They moved with the quick, precise motions of trained killers. Ambassador Nari stood and tried to step in front of Minho. This is outrageous. You cannot attack diplomatic representatives. We are not attacking anyone, High Chancellor Vex said, smoothly. We are simply maintaining order. The human representative will be detained for questioning about his threats against galactic security. The Thek warriors began to close in. Their movements were perfectly coordinated, like a pack of predators surrounding prey. Each warrior carried weapons that looked like crystalline spears, but Minho could see they were actually advanced energy projectors. "Ambassador Nari," Minho said quietly, "please step aside." "I will not. This is illegal under any interpretation of galactic law." Grak made a sound like metal grinding against stone. "The female can be detained as well if she interferes with security operations." Two more Thek warriors moved toward Nari. She backed away but continued to protest. The first warrior reached toward Minho with one of his forearms. The movement was lightning fast, faster than most beings could even see. What happened next would be talked about in whispers throughout the galaxy for generations. Minho moved. His movement was so smooth and precise that for a moment, observers weren't sure what they had seen. The Thek warrior's outstretched arm suddenly stopped mid-reach. The warrior himself froze, his compound eyes wide with something that might have been surprise. Then the warrior fell backward, his massive body hitting the platform with a sound, like thunder. Minho hadn't seemed to do anything violent. He had simply moved his briefcase in a small arc, but somehow that movement had put the 3-meter-tall alien warrior on the ground unconscious. The other Thek warriors paused for just a moment. That moment was their mistake. Minho's briefcase, which everyone had assumed was just leather and paper, revealed its true nature. The edges were reinforced with materials harder than diamond. The handle contained a collapsible grip that turned it into a weapon with perfect balance. But more than that, Minho himself was nothing like what he appeared to be. The second warrior attacked with both arms, moving fast enough to blur. Minho stepped aside so smoothly he might have been dancing. His free hand struck the warrior at a precise point on his neck. The massive alien dropped like a stone. The third warrior tried to use his spear weapon, but Minho was already inside his reach. A quick movement with the briefcase and the weapon shattered. Another precise strike, and the warrior joined his companions on the ground. The remaining 17 warriors attacked all at once. For 30 seconds, the great assembly hall witnessed something that defied everything they thought they knew about humans. Minho moved like water flowing around rocks. Every attack missed him by inches. His own movement seemed almost casual, but each one put another Thek warrior down. His suit jacket, which had seemed like simple fabric, now revealed itself to be woven with threads that could cut through alien armor like paper. He never seemed hurried. He never seemed angry. He looked like a businessman who was dealing with a minor inconvenience. When the last Thek warrior fell, Minho straightened his tie and smoothed down his jacket. His briefcase was still in his hand, looking exactly like a normal briefcase again. There wasn't even dust on his shoes. The great assembly hall was completely silent. 20 elite Thek warriors, each trained from birth to be perfect killers, each equipped with advanced weapons and armor, lay unconscious around the human platform. Not one of them had landed a single blow on the man in the simple black suit. Minho looked up at High Chancellor Vex, who was staring at him with an expression of complete shock. "As I was saying, honored High Chancellor, humanity values peace, but we are very, very good at the alternative." Security Chief Grak, who had been watching from his platform, suddenly understood exactly how badly he had miscalculated. This was not some primitive alien pretending to be diplomatic. This was something else entirely. "Impossible," Grak said, but his voice had lost its confidence. No single being could defeat 20 Thek warriors. Minho picked up a glass of water from the table on their platform and took a small sip. "You're right, of course, no normal being could do that." The implication hung in the air like a sword. High Chancellor Vex had recovered enough to speak, though his voice was not as steady as before. What are you?" "I'm exactly what I said I was, a diplomatic representative of humanity, trying to find a peaceful solution to our differences." Minho looked around the hall at all the shocked faces staring back at him. "But I think we've moved beyond the diplomatic phase now, haven't we?" Vex's hand moved toward a control panel. Minho noticed the movement but didn't seem concerned. "You're making another mistake, High Chancellor." "What mistake?" "You're about to activate emergency lockdown protocols. You're going to seal this hall and call for more security forces. You think that if you bring enough warriors, eventually some of them will be able to stop me. Vex's hand froze over the control panel. The mistake is assuming that I'm the only one. What do you mean? Minho reached into his jacket and pulled out a small communication device. Ambassador Nari, would you like to make the call or shall I? Nari was staring at him with wide eyes. Minho, who are you really? I'm someone who really genuinely hoped we could do this peacefully. He activated the communication device. Admiral Park, this is Minho. Code Omega is now in effect. Even through the small device, Admiral Park Jinwoo's voice was clear enough for everyone nearby to hear. Understood, Commander. All fleets are moving to combat positions. How long do you need? Give me 1 hour to see if we can still salvage this diplomatically. 1 hour confirmed. Try not to start a war before then. Minho turned off the device and looked up at High Chancellor Vex. Now, honored High Chancellor, would you like to reconsider your decision about human membership, or shall we discuss the alternatives? Vex stared at him for a long moment, then his hand slammed down on the emergency controls. Blast doors began sealing the Great Assembly Hall. Alarms started ringing throughout Nexus Prime. You've just declared war on the entire Galactic Council, Vex said. Minho sat down in his chair and opened his briefcase. Inside, instead of diplomatic papers, were weapons and devices that no one in the hall recognized. The emergency alarms echoed through Nexus Prime as blast doors sealed the Great Assembly Hall. Inside the dome, hundreds of alien delegates sat trapped on their floating platforms, watching the human who had just defeated 20 elite warriors, with nothing but a briefcase in his bare hands. Ambassador Nari stared at Kang Minho as he calmly arranged items from his briefcase on the table. Each device looked small and simple, but she could tell they were far more advanced than anything the Council had seen. Minho, she said quietly, I need to know who you really are. He looked up from his preparations. For the first time since she had known him, his expression was completely serious. The polite diplomat was gone, replaced by something much more dangerous. My name is Kang Minho, he said. But that's not the whole truth. High Chancellor Vex had activated his platform's communication system and was frantically giving orders to security forces throughout the station. But he was also listening to every word the humans said. My full military designation is Commander Kang Minho, formerly known by the call sign Reaper. I'm the Supreme Military Commander of Human Defense. Forces. Nari felt her blood turn cold. She had heard of the Reaper. Every human had. He was a legend from the early days of human expansion, when colony worlds were under constant attack from pirates and hostile aliens. The Reaper is supposed to be dead, she whispered. That was the official story. It made my job easier if people thought I didn't exist anymore. Around the hall, delegates were beginning to understand that they were trapped with something much worse than an angry diplomat. What job? Nari asked, though she was starting to guess the answer. For the past 10 years, I've been Earth's insurance policy. While you were working on diplomacy, I was preparing for the possibility that diplomacy would fail. Minho touched one of his devices, and a holographic display appeared in the air above their platform. It showed a map of the galaxy with thousands of moving dots. These dots represent human military assets. The red ones are ships the Council knows about. The blue ones are ships the Council doesn't know about. The display was shocking. For every red dot, there were 10 blue ones. Impossible, High Chancellor Vex said from his platform. Our intelligence services have mapped all human military assets. You have perhaps 300 ships total. Minho smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. Your intelligence services have seen exactly what we wanted them to see. The holographic display zoomed in on a council world called Terminus. It showed 2 red dots near the planet, representing the small human trading ships that were supposed to be there. Then the display changed. Suddenly there were 50 blue dots surrounding Terminus. As they watched, the dots moved into perfect attack formation. Those aren't trading ships, Minho said. They're dreadnoughts with cloaking technology. Every major council world has a similar surprise waiting nearby. More displays appeared, showing the same pattern repeated across the galaxy. Council worlds that thought they were safe were actually surrounded by hidden human fleets. Security. Chief Grack, who had been silent since watching his elite warriors get defeated, finally spoke. This is impossible. Human technology is primitive. Your ships are small and weak. Your weapons are basic projectile systems. Minho activated another device. This one projected an image of a human ship that everyone recognized. It was the standard transport design that humans used for trade missions. You're right. This is what our ships look like on the outside. The image changed, showing the same ship with its outer hull removed. Inside was technology that made several delegates gasp. In recognition, quantum displacement drives, molecular disintegrators, shield systems based on controlled gravity fields, all hidden inside hulls designed to look primitive. Where did you get this technology? Demanded a delegate from the Crystal Empire. We developed it. Humans are very good at learning from our enemies. Minho activated yet another device. This one showed recorded footage of various alien species fighting human forces over the past few decades. Every time someone attacked a human colony, we studied their weapons and tactics. Every time pirates raided our trade ships, we captured their technology. Every time the Council refused to help us, we learned to help ourselves. The footage showed human engineers reverse engineering captured alien equipment, then improving on it. You see, the Council made a crucial mistake. You assumed that because humans are new to galactic civilization, we must be primitive. You forgot that new species often develop faster because they have more recent examples to learn from. Ambassador Nari was beginning to understand the scope of what had been hidden from her. The colonies, the mining operations, they weren't just economic expansion, were they? Some were, but many were military bases disguised as civilian settlements. Every human colony has defensive capabilities that could hold off a fleet 10 times its size. High Chancellor Vex was looking more worried with each revelation. Even if this is true, you cannot fight the entire Galactic Council. We have thousands of species, millions of ships, resources from across the galaxy. Minho's expression grew sad. High Chancellor, you still don't understand. We don't want to fight the entire Galactic Council. We never did. He activated his communication device again. Admiral Park, please provide a demonstration of our peaceful intentions. Across the galaxy, something extraordinary happened. On every major council world, human ships suddenly appeared in the skies. Not attacking, not threatening, just visible. Ships that had been hidden for years simply turned off their cloaking systems and let themselves be seen. But more than that, they began broadcasting a message on all communication frequencies. The message was from Fleet Admiral Park Jinwoo, and it was being transmitted simultaneously to every inhabited planet in Council space. Citizens of the Galactic Council. Park's voice was calm and professional. I am Admiral Park Jinwoo, Commander of Human Defense Forces. Our fleets are currently positioned around every major world in Council space. On Nexus Prime, the emergency communication channels were going crazy as reports came in from across the galaxy. We are not here to attack. We are here to demonstrate that humanity has been preparing for this moment for many years. Your leaders believed humans were weak and primitive. They were wrong. The holographic display above Minho's platform now showed real-time images from dozens of worlds. Human ships hung in their skies like metal clouds, clearly visible but making no aggressive moves. However, we do not wish to be your enemies. We came to the Galactic Council seeking cooperation and friendship. We still hope for peaceful coexistence. Park's message continued while the assembled delegates sat in stunned silence. But we will not allow humanity to be enslaved, exploited, or destroyed. Your leaders have 1 hour to reconsider their decision about human membership and rights. If they choose to continue treating humans as less than equals, we will be forced to protect ourselves. The transmission ended, leaving the Great Assembly Hall in complete silence. High Chancellor Vex was the first to speak, his voice shaky. This is blackmail. You're threatening the entire galaxy. Minho shook his head. No, High Chancellor. We're offering the galaxy a choice. Work with us as equals, or learn why it's a bad idea to attack Earth's diplomats. But the numbers. Even with hidden ships, you cannot match the combined fleets of the Council. You're probably right, Minho agreed. In a straight fight, numbers would eventually win, but this wouldn't be a straight fight. Another display appeared showing detailed tactical analyses. Human military doctrine is based on principles that most galactic species find disturbing. We don't fight for honor or glory. We fight to win, as quickly and efficiently as possible. The display showed scenarios where human forces used hit-and-run tactics, targeted infrastructure rather than military assets, and focused on disrupting supply lines rather than engaging in direct battles. While your fleets are trying to find our main forces, we'll be destroying your shipyards, your communication networks, your trade routes. We'll make it impossible for you to coordinate a response. Security Chief Grack made an angry buzzing sound. Cowards' tactics. Honorless warfare. Effective warfare, Minho corrected, which is why most species find it disturbing. Ambassador Nari was staring at him with an expression of mixed horror and fascination. You've been planning this for 10 years? Hoping we'd never need it for 10 years, Minho corrected. But yes, planning it. And the government. They knew? Some of them. The president knew. The defense secretary knew. Most of the cabinet thought you were our only hope for peaceful integration. They lied to me. They protected you. If you had known the truth, you might not have been able to negotiate with genuine sincerity. Your honest belief in diplomacy was one of our greatest assets. High Chancellor Vex was consulting with other delegates through his communication system. The conversations were heated and desperate. What do you want? Vex finally asked. What are your demands? Minho stood and straightened his tie. For a moment he looked like the simple diplomat again. The same things we've been asking for 3 years. Recognition of human sovereignty, fair trade agreements, protection for human colonies, a seat on the council with voting rights equal to other major species. And if we refuse? Minho looked around the hall at all the delegates watching him. The 1-hour deadline was 10 minutes away when the first reports started coming in from across the galaxy. High Chancellor Vex received them on his emergency communication system, while the Great Assembly Hall remained sealed. His face grew paler with each message. Impossible, he whispered, then louder. This cannot be happening. Kang Minho looked up from his preparations. He had spent the past 50 minutes calmly assembling what looked like a small communication center on the human platform. What seems to be the problem, High Chancellor? Vex stared at him with a mixture of fear and disbelief. Our fleets. They're being destroyed. Across 17 star systems, Council military forces are under attack. That's unfortunate, Minho said, though his tone suggested he wasn't surprised. Ambassador Nari looked shocked. But Admiral Park said you wouldn't attack unless the hour was up. Minho activated one of his devices. Admiral Park's voice came through clearly. Admiral, please explain the current situation to our friends here. Park's voice was calm, professional, and absolutely ruthless. The Council forces fired first, Commander. When our ships decloaked to deliver the message, several Council fleets immediately opened fire without any attempt at communication. We are now responding in self-defense. Around the hall, delegates were receiving similar reports. The VAC military. Commander was shouting into his communicator about impossible human tactics. The Thek Admiral was demanding reinforcements that weren't coming. Furthermore, Park continued, our intelligence indicates that evacuation transports are being prepared to remove Council leadership from Nexus Prime. This suggests the Council has decided to continue hostilities rather than negotiate. Chidar. Chancellor Vex slammed his hand on his communication panel. We were not evacuating, we were preparing defensive positions. Minho looked at him with something that might have been sympathy. Admiral, please update our diplomatic friends on the current tactical situation. The holographic display above their platform changed to show a real-time map of the galaxy. Red areas showed Council forces under attack. Blue areas showed human-controlled base. Green areas showed regions where fighting had already ended. The pattern was devastating. In less than an hour, human forces had struck simultaneously at over 100 strategic targets. Not random attacks, but precisely chosen strikes that crippled the Council's ability to coordinate a response. Our primary targets were communication, hubs, supply depots, and fleet coordination centers, Park explained. We avoided civilian populations and infrastructure whenever possible. One delegate from a species called the Gentlefolk raised a shaking tentacle. Our homeworld. What happened to our homeworld? Your military orbital platforms have been disabled. Your government communications are being jammed. But your cities are untouched and your people are safe. We have no interest in harming civilians. This was perhaps the most shocking revelation yet. Human forces were demonstrating the ability to strike with surgical precision across the galaxy. They could destroy military targets while leaving everything else intact. Security Chief Grack, who had been unusually quiet, finally spoke up. How? How is this possible? Our intelligence showed humans had only primitive military capabilities. Minho activated another device. This one projected an image that made several delegates gasp in recognition. It showed a Thek swarm battleship, one of the most advanced military vessels in the galaxy. But the image wasn't from Council files. It was from inside a human facility, where the battleship was being taken apart piece by piece. This is the TSS destroyer, which disappeared in the Outer Rim 3 years ago. Your report said it was lost to pirates. The image changed to show human engineers studying every component of the advanced alien vessel. We took it, along with 17 other advanced Council ships over the past 5 years. Every time you sent a ship to investigate pirate attacks, on human colonies we learned something new. More images appeared. Vok cruisers, Crystal Empire science vessels, Trade Federation cargo ships. All in human facilities, all being reverse-engineered and improved upon. You taught us how to build better ships by sending us examples to study. You taught us your tactics by trying to intimidate our colonies. You taught us your weaknesses by underestimating our intelligence. Ambassador Nari was beginning to understand the full scope of the deception. Every human colony that was destroyed by raiders was evacuated in advance, Minho confirmed. We knew the attacks were coming because we had infiltrated your communication networks. We let you destroy empty buildings while our people watched from hidden shelters. And learned from every attack, Park's voice added through the communicator. Each raid taught us more about Council military capabilities and coordination. The holographic display now showed the current situation across the galaxy. The green areas where fighting had ended were expanding rapidly. But the human victories weren't coming through overwhelming force. Instead, they were demonstrating something that terrified the Council delegates even more. Perfect coordination and tactical superiority. Our fleets aren't larger than yours, Minho explained, but they're faster, better coordinated, and designed specifically to counter your strengths. He activated another display showing a typical engagement. A Council fleet of 50 ships faced a human force of only 20, but the human ships moved with precision that seemed almost supernatural. They struck at exactly the right targets in exactly the right sequence, disabling the larger force without destroying it. Human military doctrine has one primary goal: end conflicts as quickly as possible with minimum casualties on all sides. High Chancellor Vex was getting reports that seemed to confirm this. Across the galaxy, Council forces were being disabled rather than destroyed. Crews were being taken prisoner rather than killed. Infrastructure was being captured rather than demolished. Why? Vex asked. If you can defeat us, why not just destroy our fleets? Minho looked genuinely sad. Because we still hope to live in the same galaxy with you. Destroying your fleets would make that harder. The communication system crackled as another report came in. This one was from the Council's highest-ranking military commander, Admiral Zeth of the Combined Fleet. All forces, this is Admiral Zeth. I am ordering a full retreat to secondary positions. Human forces have demonstrated tactical superiority that we cannot currently match. All ships are to withdraw and await new orders. The silence in the Great Assembly Hall was absolute. The most powerful military alliance in galactic history had just admitted defeat after less than 2 hours of fighting. Admiral Park, Minho said into his communicator, please hold all forces at current positions. No pursuit of retreating Council ships. Understood, Commander. All human forces are standing. down to defensive positions. Minho turned off the device and looked around the hall at hundreds of stunned alien faces. Honored delegates, the demonstration is now complete. You have seen that humanity is capable of defending itself, but you have also seen that we prefer to disable rather than destroy, capture rather than kill. He stood and straightened his suit jacket, looking like a simple diplomat again. So now we return to the original question. Will the Galactic Council accept humanity as equals, or do we need to continue this discussion through other means? High Chancellor Vex was quiet for a long time. Finally, he activated his communication system and spoke to the entire hall. The Council calls for an immediate recess to reconsider recent developments. How long do you need? Minho asked politely. 1 standard day. You have 6 hours. After that, Admiral Park resumes military operations. Vex looked shocked. 6 hours isn't enough time to contact all member species and coordinate a response. 6 hours is more than enough time to say yes or no to human membership, Minho replied. The complicated part is deciding whether you want to say yes before or after we finish demonstrating our capabilities. Over the next 6 hours, the Galactic Council held the most intense emergency session in its history. Representatives argued, threatened, pleaded, and finally accepted reality. The final vote was unanimous. Humanity would be granted immediate full membership with all associated rights and privileges. But the Council had one more surprise. High Chancellor Vex announced that in recognition of humanity's unique diplomatic and military capabilities, they were being offered a permanent seat on the Security Council with veto power over major galactic decisions. We believe, Vex said carefully, that human perspectives on conflict resolution could be valuable to the Council. 3 months later, Ambassador Nari found herself promoted to Secretary General for Human Affairs, one of the most powerful positions in galactic government. Her first official act was to establish the Galactic Peace Corps, a joint military force dedicated to ending conflicts quickly and with minimal casualties. The Corps was commanded by someone who had proven very effective at that particular mission, Commander Kang Minho. But Minho insisted on one condition for his service. He would continue to wear simple diplomatic suits rather than military uniforms. He said it was important to remember that the best victory was the one that didn't require fighting at all. Across the galaxy, a new saying became popular among species that had learned to respect human capabilities. Beware the diplomat who never raises his voice. He may be dressed for peace, but he is prepared for war.